So I want to move on to cyber law.
Yeah.
Tell us about cyber law and the risks that are involved, because you would have seen a lot through the Army and your current positions.
Yeah. So there are cyber risks and cyber crime, and then I like to sort of have this invisible war, and then over here something that I would, as a military lawyer, call cyber attack. And I separate it. You see, there's wall, and then there's cyber crime, and then there's this. And the reason I'm separating it is because to get to the level where I would call it an attack is the same level I would call any armed use of force. So it's now so severe on any given state, and by that I mean country, that you would be allowed to say, oh, this is armed conflict, and now armed conflict rules apply. So one of my pet bugbears about cyber is that in the media, which you know I cherish deeply, the Australian media, that they'll use the word attack willy-nilly, cyber attack. It's cyber crime.
Okay.
There's been theft, there's been perhaps a little trespass or some such, not an attack, in the sense that if I am physically attacked, I have a right of self-defence. But if someone's snuck into my office and taken some physical files, they've stolen. Mm-hmm. So I like to kind of just, I will happily talk for hours about military level attack, and at what point is there a sufficient level of cyber incursion that a state, a country, can respond with force. That was my bread and butter. But I think more relevant perhaps for us in this context is getting the idea that this is crime. Mm-hmm. So people are either invading, in a sense, your home, they're invading your space, even if that's cyberspace, and they might not even steal at first. So if you can imagine someone casing your joint. So I've come into your apartment, I've had a look around while you went home, and I thought, if I just leave this little wedge here in your back door, I can get in whenever I want. So whenever I need to have access to your home in the future, I've set it down. I don't need it now, but maybe I'll need it in the future. You could become famous. And so if I'm the clever little hacker, to take my analogy back to cyber, I've made a back door. It's a commodity. How many people want your back door, Louise?
I don't know.
So if I'm just someone that enjoys playing around with code or doing things like that, there's a market for just back doors, just entries into someone's world. So that's a thing in itself. There are all kinds of other things. There can be latent bits of program. There can be, there's a lot of cyber terms, and I've made a decision coming into today. I'm not going to drown you in unnecessary technology. You don't need to know the terms, but I think it really helps to understand it as crime, and all the analogies fit. So I can case your joint, I can leave little traps, I can make things very bad very quickly. And really then it becomes, if I'm a business, if I'm a law firm, what are my vulnerable points? What's my most critical vulnerability? And I was thinking about Melbourne law firms, thinking, wow, those law firms who represent some of our really high profile, characteristic, Melbourne mafios, or whatever we want to call, a kind of underworld, an espresso drinking cool mob sort of thing. If I were in a gang, let's say, and I know law firm X represents the other gang, wow, they've represented them in all of these cases, that law firm. And they have all of this privileged information. That could really help me get a business advantage over that mob. Because let's let's be honest, we're all about making money in illegal activities. So what's easier, shooting people on the street or rendering my rival gang bankrupt? And if the easiest place to do that isn't to try and enter their den, where they might not even have bookkeepings, but is to enter their poorly secured law firm via cyber, I'm not trying to plant ideas here, but I'm saying I think law has this gorgeous naivety, and we're still clutching onto paper. And even though deep down I feel like paper is probably the last secure thing in the world, and that's only when you've eaten it and defecated and then burnt your feces and then put those ashes in a safe, then I think that information is good. But I think we're very naive about how we do things, and we need to, just as we do with all of the physical aspects of running a law firm, we have insurance, we have regular checks on our air conditioning, the lift gets maintained in the building, really basic stuff. If we're not doing that for our computer systems, we are ready for the taking. What are those risks? And there's so much information out there about this that can help. Like, this isn't just, I'm not just posing doom and gloom. But you have to access it. Like, you need someone in each law firm to just say, oh, well, just as we're looking at our occupational health and safety and we're getting someone in to massage people once a month or whatever their thing is, or we're giving them free fruit because we make them work 14-hour days, what are we doing for our IT? Are we outsourcing it regularly? Are we getting any kind of audit done? How do we know it's secure? Who's even testing our firewalls? And that's all in the context of there's no perfect. There's any more than you give me the right thieves, I can enter any building and take what I want. You give me the right cyber guys and I can take any information I want.